what led to that connection and how do we duplicate that?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like what conversations, and that's where it's on each of you individually to be like, what conversations were had? What did I talk about? What worked? What spurred on the appointment? You know, like what were the metrics and what were the kind of like things that happened that led up to that meeting, and how do I just do that again? Right? Like, were you the one that was like, hey, let's just come into the office, have a conversation, talk about it, right? Because if that's the case, then it's like anybody who mentions real estate investing, just be like, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee and talk about it. And then all of a sudden you do 2 or 3 of those meetings a week and you've got a database of 50, 60, 70 people. And then what ends up happening is you start to get listings, and then you can build a list of people. Like right now, if I get a listing, I have a list of 150 investors who I'm on a first name basis with that I send out an email to all of them. And I'll get 15, 20 answers. Hey, it's not for me. Hey, it's you know, it's a good deal for me. What's you know, send me more info. All of that. And you just build that list. And that's the whole entire idea, is like, how do we just build those relationships? Because then if you send out, you know, multiple properties a year, now you have, because on the flip side, you can turn around and say, if you're trying to pitch a listing and it's a multifamily property, you could say, yeah, I have a list of 200 people who are going to be interested in your property that I can market to tomorrow, that I personally work with. And it's like, that's invaluable, because when you look at the top brokers, right, especially it's really amplified in the luxury market, but why does someone work with a top broker in the luxury market who sells $25 million homes? What are they really focused on? That agent's network, right? Like if I ask you right now, who do you know that could buy a $25 million house? Anybody? Does anybody know someone who could buy a $25 million house? You do from baseball, right? Bryce does from podcasting, right? Like, how do you value that network? So if I'm pitching a listing and it's like, I'll be honest with you, I don't know anybody who's going to buy a $25 million house. Why is the seller going to work with you when there's somebody who has a list of 15 people? So it's the same thing when you look at pitching a listing at a $500,000 house, a $250,000 house, $1 million house. I not only have the market, which is out there, it's there for everybody, but I also have my own personal network of trusted people who, if I call and say, hey, you got to come look at this property, they're going to come and look at it. And that's especially the case with the investment stuff. So that's why it's all about those relationships and building that list. And that's a perfect example. It's like you build that list of 2,000 people, you could just market to your database. Now the special sauce is when you take the database and you have that systematized, and then on top of that, you know how to generate new leads and business through marketing and advertising. And that's how you grow, right? Because if you have a database of 2,000 people, you'll have slow and steady growth, right? You have your kind of database, but we've talked about it, you're only relying on those people sending you referrals. And that is hit or miss. Now there's economies of scale when you get to 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people, that is just a numbers game. But when your network's 100 people, that numbers game could be taking 2 or 3 years to get a referral. It could take a long time. You know, the more the people you have in your database, then the more likely you are to get a referral from them if you're marketing to them. But then on top of that, you run the social media ads, you run the Google ads, you run the systematized stuff, you do the door knocking, you do the cold calling, whatever it is, to generate new leads to add to the database to repeat the process. One other thing I want to touch on quickly, just thoughts on it. I want to hear everybody's, because Steve made a good point. You know, he said the second part was that you want to work with people who want to work with you.
It's like having a gym client who like is just not into it.
Right.
It's so hard to like, you could text them every week, but if they don't show up or don't eat the right thing, it's just like, okay. I just had buyers, they barely answered me for like weeks. They're like, oh, so sorry. They do this to me all the time though. It's like they go out, they're so interested all weekend. We want to make an offer. I talk to them on the phone, everything's great. Call them again, nothing. Call them again, nothing. This went to highest and best, nothing, you know, and then you're kind of in that point.
You're towing a very fine line. We all are. You want to be friendly with them, right? You want to have good rapport. You want to have all of that. But at the same time, you almost have to remove yourself, like, it's not personal, right?
Yeah,
like,
no.
They're not answering you because they're not answering you because you're Steve. They're not answering you because, honestly, dude, they have no idea what they want.
Yeah.
That's really what it boils down to. And there's nothing that you can do to allow them to figure out what they want. People are just indecisive. And that means that but at the same time, if those people are kind of looking, I shouldn't say no one, but it's extremely rare that someone considers a move and then stays there for another 20 to 25 years, right? Like if you're a young couple, you're not going to be like, maybe we should move, maybe we should buy a house, maybe we should do X, Y, Z, and then just not do anything for 25 years. A lot of the time, the follow-up is what earns you the business if you keep doing it. Because people will literally be like, we really want someone who's going to follow up continuously. They're on top of things. Yeah. Like, yes, we know that we didn't answer you, but they almost also feel like they owe you their business if you consistently follow up.
I get that, and I've gotten that.
And and there's a way to do it, obviously. Like, I could show you messages of just constantly checking in where I just don't get answered. For literally, I'm not even exaggerating, I have threads on my phone 3 years of just no answer. Dude. Texting, quarterly, monthly, whatever it is. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, it's 6 o'clock on a Friday night. Hey, we're ready to put the house on the market. Can you come by next Thursday? And you're like, and 2 weeks later, the house on the market and it's sold. And it's like 3.5 years of never hearing from them. And then again, it takes some people a lot longer, right? It's 15, 16, 17 months on average. That means some people are going to decide in a month or two, and some people are going to decide in 3 years. Yeah. Right? So you're going to see both ends of the spectrum. It's just the larger your database is, the less you get caught up on the extremes.
Our issue.
This is every agent in that part of their career where they're not brand new, so they've got people, they've got things going on, but they're not at that level where their list is a couple hundred people or a couple thousand people. You're both in that similar situation. So you're going to get the extremes because you're getting enough opportunities where you're going to see the one off and you're going to see the person who takes 3 years. You know, and you're at that point now where you've been in it for a few years. So you're going to start to see those people that this was a lead I got in month 2 and I'm still following up. You're gonna see that. It's just over time, the law of averages starts to take over as it grows bigger and bigger. What you don't want to do is stop following up because all you're doing is constantly resetting your clock then, right? Because if you don't follow up, let's just say you build a list of 100 people and you stop following up with 50 of them. Well, you don't have a list of 100 people anymore. So the law of averages isn't going to help you. You're just restarting where you were 6 months ago, a year ago, because your list isn't growing and you're not giving yourself more opportunities. You know, look at it like this. Your calendar is a calculator, right? So the number of meetings that you have, the number of phone calls you make, and the number of texts and emails that you send, that's going to determine your income. It's really that simple when you think about it, right? Like, how many emails do you think a top broker who sells 150 homes a year is sending? How many texts and phone calls are they sending? You hear the guys in the office here, they're constantly on their phones. That's just an indication of how much business they're doing. Yeah. It's really that simple. So you want that list to be as big as possible where you're constantly texting and emailing people, and then it naturally and organically, you'll just make more money 6 months from now, 12 months from now.
I continue to follow up with her, but you know, like after a month on Zillow, you can ask them to confirm. I asked her to confirm and she declined it. So in my head, I was like, I must have done something wrong. You know, like, so I was like, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to continue to follow up. I did nothing for literally over a year. And then she hit me up 2 weeks ago and was like, hey, I'm so sorry. I saw one of your emails just went to my spam, but she was like, I want to go start looking at houses. And I took her out last weekend.
Yeah, you know what that line is? That's her disarming you from saying, I wasn't ignoring you, it was just going to spam. But she was seeing all the follow-up. Oh, yeah. That was just her way of initiating the conversation psychologically. Hey, I wasn't completely blowing you off. I've been seeing your stuff, but it went to spam. I've been seeing it, right? Like, that's what she's doing.
And without that database, she never would have called you.
But
that's awesome.
Why do you think if you go into the CRM and you go to the scoreboard, right? There's a scoreboard in there. Why is calls, appointments, and emails in there? Why is that the scoreboard?
Well, because that's what's going to determine the business.
Correct.
Also,
it's that simple. If you really want to grow your business, take 30 days and track how many phone calls, emails and texts do you send every single day for 30 days? If you want to lose weight and you write down every single thing that you're going to eat every single day for 30 days, you're naturally just going to stop eating as much because you're going to be like, holy crap, I'm eating a ton, right? It's the same exact thing. You really want to grow your business, have a little notebook every day, check phone call, every phone call, every text, every email. And what's going to happen is after 3 or 4 days of doing that, you're going to be like, oh, Monday I sent 30 texts, I made 15 phone calls, and today I've said 4 and 5. I should probably start following up with some people.